On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery 202, New Eden, right after this.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
What's up, Dave? How you doing, buddy?
Oh, man. I don't know.
You don't know?
Stuff be crazy, man. Life is crazy.
Life can be crazy. Life can be crazy. These are true facts. Yeah, man. I'm excited. Let's get into this episode. Star Trek.
All right.
Woo!
All right. So the summary, as per CBS All Access, a new signal appears prompting Stamets' emotional return to the mycelial network and leading Burnham, Pike, and Owosekun to a pre-warp planet where they face a complex ethical dilemma. Tilly's overeagerness lands her in trouble, but when the planet and Discovery's landing party are threatened, her curiosity may be the one thing that can save them.
That was a pretty good summary there.
Yeah.
I didn't show the ending, but, Yeah, so I think this was a great episode.
I thought it was really good, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I know I was a little down on it last week, and I seemed down on it. I just loved this episode. This episode made me laugh out loud multiple times. It did present some interesting moral issues where I really wasn't sure who was correct, I felt horrible for the... I forget his name.
Jacob.
I felt horrible for Jacob when it appeared they were going to leave him there without a way of proving that he was correct. That was really emotional, honestly. I was like, I don't know if I agree with... It was probably one of the first times I really felt strongly that, like, it might be the right thing to do to follow the Prime Directive here. Like, that could be true, but it's also, like, really painful.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time when they present those dilemmas, I'm like, well, it's just obvious. Ignore the Prime Directive. It's time to ignore it.
Right. I did, like, it did bother me to some degree that they were just like, well, in a situation like this, we have to we have to sacrifice one moral for the other, and that means General Order 1, and I was sort of like, you guys can beam in and take that helmet. You guys want to help Jacob out. You want to tell him.
Oh, for sure. The final scene where Captain Pike goes down and gives him the power cell, that was clearly breaking the Prime Directive. Like, he easily could have gone down. I guess, I don't know. Taking a relic, though, that's probably pretty morally dubious itself. Like, without asking.
Well, I mean, if you beam in, figure out where it is, then maybe that was the problem. They didn't know where it was.
Right.
In that,
in that 4x4 room. They pretty easily could have found it. They knew, it could have been anywhere in the village, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I feel like they still probably could have even sent a second group in. But regardless, it was definitely Pike's decision to give him that power cell as a way of helping them get back to their technology and belief in science.
Yeah.
Which I didn't mind. It's a choice, but I also felt like this will have consequences. I feel like the writers even called it out. They what did they say? Jacob said something about not wanting. I hope he sees them again, or something like that.
Yeah, my exasperated sigh was not from an anger or frustration standpoint. I was really just thinking about when Jacob asks Pike if he has a ship and he can fly, and Pike just kind of goes, "Yeah." It's just he killed that scene, man.
Yeah, that was a really, really great scene. And I don't know, it was sort of Jacob standing in for all of us. Like, this like desire to see the stars. I just loved it. I loved it so much. But then he had a desire to know that it was true. But what I thought was interesting, I feel like in most situations, I almost felt like they were going to treat him like Saru, like he was going to go, well, can I go with you? But that's not what he wants. He wants to bring his society into the future and bring science back.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really rad.
Yeah. My gosh, man. By the way, this was directed by Jonathan Frakes. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did not notice that. That's awesome. It shows. Yeah. I've liked almost everything he's directed for Star Trek. I like Jonathan Frakes directing a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they answered a question from last time. You were trying to figure out how Michael Burnham got into Spock's quarters. She just pressed open. But you know what? I rewatched Mud's Women, just by happenstance, it literally just played next in CBS All Access. I'm like, oh, okay. And, people just do that shit. In the original series. They just open doors, go into quarters and stuff.
Maybe it's just that whole, like, we live in a utopian society, we all leave our doors open thing, but I think that's kind of bonkers.
I do too.
On a ship that has so many scientific and military secrets, like, you can't do that.
Well, I mean, we're just talking about private quarters. We're not talking about, we're not necessarily talking about, like, places that would have classified stuff.
Sure, but you could still, like, walk into the first officer's quarters and leave recording devices, or, like, I don't know. Sure, there's ways to headcanon around it. I don't know. I guess, like, it would report that someone had been in there, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think they're usually always just talking to the same computer if they do a personal log or something.
Sure.
I mean, it's all going to the same shit.
Yeah, well, I guess. But, I mean, I feel like most of the time, I don't know. It just seems weird. Like, Spock had this secret. It is literally a secret that he kept. He knew about the 7 signals before they happened, and something about them has driven him crazy, he thinks. And, like, that's all a big secret that he didn't tell anyone, but it was just a couple keystrokes away from the knowledge. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he left it open on purpose. Maybe he left it accessible on purpose.
Here's my headcanon for it. You ready?
Sure.
It was the tablet he had since he was a kid. Maybe Bo Burnham was, like, already logged in. Bo
Burnham?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call her from now on. Comedian Bo Burnham.
Okay.
Sorry. Michael Burnham. Maybe she was already, maybe her, like, her genetic code or her fingerprints or whatever were already scanned in when she was a child.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the only thing that explains why she was able to figure out what was up with Spock when no one else was. Maybe I would have loved that. I would have loved if they'd, like, included that.
Yeah, I mean, they still may. I don't know. I doubt it.
Yeah, she did say it's the same computer he had since he was a kid. Like, it would make sense if she knew how to get into her brother's computer when she was a kid.
If she knew his password or something.
Right. Like, he hadn't changed his password on that thing since. And maybe not. Maybe it's just a relic of his childhood that he holds on to and uses for things that other people wouldn't even think to look into.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. I've sufficiently headcanoned it. Let's move on.
So we learned that Spock is in a psychiatric facility on Starbase 5 and that he's there of his own volition.
Yeah.
So just throwing that out there. That's nice that they gave us that. I figured he was in a psychiatric facility because we saw him there in a trailer.
Yeah. I saw him fighting there too. So he's there of his own volition, but maybe he's trying to get outside of their control.
Yeah, I loved all the science / logic versus faith stuff.
Me too. I really loved. Can you prove that? It's just really
yes,
just a great line. We've talked about it a lot. They do it a lot on DS9. The balance between faith and science and proof and all of that is very interesting to me, and I love that. They just did it really well in this episode, and I hope that continues. And I think it might, based on, like, so here's a small theory, based on those themes they introduced in this episode, and the fact that Spock has, I assume, since Burnham believes it's completely illogical, religion is completely illogical, basically, that Spock probably believes the same thing, and maybe something to do with these red bursts. This red angel led Spock to the conclusion that there was some sort of divine, intervention in these red burst circumstances, and maybe he started to see God, as it were, in these things, and maybe that's what made him like, something's a little off with me. I need to go into a psychiatric facility.
Yeah. I don't know.
I could see Spock choosing to go into a psychiatric facility because logic was failing him. Like, this isn't lining up. I gotta go sit in a padded room and figure this out.
Me and Bethany were just really enjoying how much Spock was smiling in Mudd's women. Just saying.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It's a funny little like cocky smile too, because like Mudd's got the women walking around, all the men are like enamored with him, and then it just like cuts up to Spock, who's like looking at Kirk like, "Girl," and he just sort of like like walks away like, Like, it's a sassy kind of smile. It's really funny.
That's great. That's pretty great.
Anyway, dude, I loved how they name dropped Arthur C. Clarke and co-opted his any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic to any sufficiently advanced extraterrestrial technology is indistinguishable from God. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's really fun.
I thought it was really cool that the settlers cobbled their fates together. That was really neat.
Yeah. I agree. And it was interesting to see a culture built on World War III, era faiths and knowledge, and then they build it into what it is, and this major event of the Red Angel bringing this culture, this small church of 200 people to a planet. The whole thing's interesting. This episode made me really interested in what is the Red Angel. Like, what could it possibly what purpose could this serve? This action of bringing this church of 200 people and planting it here.
Yeah. Clearly, the angel's like saving people.
That is what it seems like. I'm very, very curious. That, like I said, that first episode did not drive me to curiosity. This one really, really did.
Mm-hmm. I could feel you on that a little bit. Like, I liked the first one, though.
Yeah. I liked it. I just didn't feel the emotional weight. And this one, I'm starting to care. Even the little details. I just wish some of those details had been included. Like, if they'd said the red burst corresponded to big saviors of life or something like that. Like in the first episode, maybe I'd be like, oh, interesting. But they didn't. They just said, there's red bursts. And they're all at the same time. We don't know if it's natural or whatever. Now we know it does not seem natural. Something is intervening and causing these things to happen, which we knew from trailers, but didn't know that from the episode. And the Spock stuff, we also have the little piece of knowledge that Spock is in an insane asylum. That makes me way more interested in where he is rather than him just off floating somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked the idea that Pike was willing to sacrifice himself for those people. Like when the kid had the phaser and he jumped on top of it.
Yeah, that was classic captain shit.
Yeah, and also I feel like a little bit of a foreshadowing of his eventual fate. Because it's only a few years later that he's on board a training vessel and the baffle plate ruptures. And he basically drags a bunch of cadets and trainees to get them away from the delta particle radiation, and he becomes irradiated and crippled by those rays.
Yeah, I I thought that is really cool. It just shows his character. His character is someone who jumps on their literal grenade for people.
Yeah.
And that's great.
He's Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. It's Captain America. Well, and I think we may have talked about Save the Cat moments on this podcast. If not, I'm sure you being a fan of writing,
absolutely
know that term. That's his Save the Cat moment for me. Like, he didn't really do anything in the first episode that showed me his character, but in this episode, again, I now care about Captain Pike because he's the kind of guy who would do that, not just for one of his crewmen, but for like a random child on a pre-warp planet. That's big to me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you look at the rest of the crew and they find out there's radiation about to destroy the planet, they all start talking about how to get their crew out of there. And then it's Saru who's like, no, we have responsibility for this entire planet. We're the Federation. I love that Saru is just a champion of Federation ideals.
At the end of this, I hope that Saru is the captain of Discovery.
I think he deserves it. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when Pike leaves, I hope he's like, by the way, you're not meeting up with another captain. You are the captain. And just be done. Like,
I hope that's true. I think this whole situation with Lorca, like him leading them, I feel like that was dripping off the fact that they all just wanted to save their crewmen. You know what I mean? Like the fact that Lorca would have probably been like, yep, got to get him out of there. Let's go.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just don't. I see Lorca. Well, obviously, given all the things we know about Lorca now, he probably doesn't mind a pre-warp civilization being destroyed. But he also, maybe. But he also always seemed to want to save the Federation people, and didn't seem like, I don't know. He seemed generally annoyed at what was the planet that had basically the living planet. The last couple episodes of...
So Pavo?
Pavo, yeah. He seemed generally annoyed by the need to save Pavo. Like, he knew it was a Federation, like, directive and he had to follow it, but, like, he was like, I don't know, he seemed grumpy about it.
He did.
And so I feel like these are humans, so maybe he'd view them as Terrans and see their potential, but... I don't know. A general pre-warp civilization, I think he'd probably be willing to abandon to say... He definitely is not a jump on a grenade kind of guy.
Right. So, I loved sad Stamets, man. I loved Stamets not being able to deal with being on Discovery. It was heartbreaking, but it was good TV.
Yeah, it was good TV. I liked it. And I really loved the kind of turnaround of he is scared that he's going to see Hugh because it would mean he's holding on to the past and he has moved forward, all the stuff he's talking about, seeing Hugh and how painful it would be to see Hugh, but then he clearly does not see Hugh, and then that causes him to go into even more pain. Like, he clearly was lying to himself a little bit about what he really wanted. He wanted to see Hugh in the network. Which I like that they're touching on that. I know my theory is that the mycelial network was communicating to him itself.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm hoping that is the case, and I like that they're staying on that. We weren't even sure they were ever going to use the spore drive again, and clearly they are, which means they can go to parts of the Star Trek universe that we haven't seen in any other Star Trek. I mean, like, they could fly out to the Delta Quadrant if they wanted to.
Yeah, but also... Because they're saying it now, like, in the episode, this is like the second time in the season they've said that, nothing gone is ever truly lost, or whatever. He's talking about seeing Hugh, now Tilly's seeing her dead friend from the day, back in the day.
That's right.
Remember the little green particle? I bet that shit is, I think that's, like, part of the mycelial network, but also I think, like, people dying go there.
Huh. That is possible. It is possible they go there. It is also possible, like, just the memory of them is stored in the mycelial network somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah. Really, what is the difference, maybe?
I mean, since the mycelial network connects everything everywhere.
Yeah, space. And it seems to go through space and time, because they did jump time in the last episode. So it just opens up so many places they could go with Discovery. And, like, although it's a prequel, it could become not a prequel at some point.
Yeah.
It's very possible the spore drive could lead them into the future. We haven't really touched much on the Tilly storyline that got her in trouble. First off, I was super annoyed with her doing her little science project. And that she's an ensign going in there and causing, like, damage and what could have led to much more damage. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was, I felt like that was kind of stupid again. I just feel like Discovery has, like, the worst security parameters. Or I guess all the Federation ships do.
Yeah. I think that's probably pretty, again, like, I've been kind of, like, looking back at some TOS, and, I mean, back to Mudd's women. Like, Mudd is actively scheming with security officers standing right behind him, watching him in the room, and they're like, well, we're not going to tell Kirk about this.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's a different time in TV now, and it's like, some of that you could get away with in the 60s that now we question and we see, and we're like, oh, that's real dumb. We just know that now, if we had a even partially military style vessel, it's not going to have such free reign to people who shouldn't have. There should be levels to the amount of
I agree.
Access that people have. And obviously Tilly is a valued member of the crew that probably has more access than some ensigns because of her status with the spore drive and her relationships to the bridge crew.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely got a sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I found it incredibly disconcerting when I saw her bleeding.
That was messed up.
We don't see blood on Star Trek very often, I feel like. Like, I don't know, like open blood. I guess in Discovery we've seen a lot more of it. But a lot of times
there was a lot of blood in Wrath of Khan when Scotty, for some reason, brings his dying nephew to the bridge instead of sickbay, which is way closer to engineering.
Right. No, there's been blood here and there, but I feel like it's a Starship show, and they mostly just people zap each other or disintegrate. And just seeing her lying on the ground from like blunt force trauma and bleeding, I was like, oh, I don't like it. You're not supposed to bleed, Tilly. I thought the convenient exposition ceremony was pretty bonkers.
Bonkers?
They're on a planet where, yes, like, I can headcanon it. Again, I can headcanon it. But they're on a planet. It seems like everyone would kind of know about the Red Angel and the whole thing of saving them. And it's only been 200 years. I know that a lot can happen in 200 years. And it's pre-warp, so they don't have all the communication and everything. But it just seemed very strange that they like told them without them asking, because they were pretending to be from the planet. They told them the history of the planet.
Yeah, but they were also, quote, from the north. Right.
My headcanon, and it's fine, I can headcanon it, is that they're from the north, and this is literally a temple built to the circumstances that brought them to this planet. And so when new settlers come in or visitors, they give them the ceremony that tells the story of the church. You know, sure, that makes sense. It still seemed super conveniently expositional.
Also, you know, I've been in little churches where like you don't get any new people. They still tell the same stories every Sunday. Cyclically, they tell the same stories throughout the year. I mean, but yeah, sure. I mean, I absolutely think that if, you know, strangers show up and you haven't seen strangers pop in from another settlement for 200 years, you're going to be like, dude, guess what we know? We have this faith over here.
Sure, but it's not that they haven't had settlers for 200 years. It's that they've been on that communities have been on that planet for 200 years. They could have settlers every day for all we know, from the north or from the south or from the east. People could be traveling there all the time. We don't know.
I absolutely don't know.
It definitely
didn't go into that.
It definitely hasn't been 200 years because it's been 200 years since they've been there. They started there in that church and they've spread across the planet as far as we can tell. Mm-hmm. So they're all human. So I'm assuming they didn't come from different Red Angel experiences on all the different settlements, but who knows? Maybe they did.
Right.
I think the supposition was that the 200 people landed there. They spread out across the planet over the course of 200 years.
Maybe. I didn't feel like it was very, I don't know.
Clear.
It didn't really go into depth with exactly what happened.
I don't think it was super deep, but I do. That is what it seemed like to me. It seemed pretty clear to me, but I may be making assumptions. Sure.
I mean, I don't know. Whatever.
It seems like if there were other events that brought humans to that planet, they would have somehow been able to detect, just like they were able to detect this one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What else did I want to touch on this episode before we get to our quotes? Anything you got? I
don't think so. I think I'm good for quotes.
What was the ensign or the officer that was with them, with Burnham, who they said she was a Luddite on Earth?
Oh,
I didn't get her name.
Owosekun.
I liked her. That was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, she's been on the season 1. We just haven't really seen her do anything except for be on the bridge. Yeah,
I just liked that they delved into her character a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And I liked her like magnet MacGyver shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. Just like I liked how immediately they were able to get out of a cage built by the technology of the day. Like they're like, we're Federation. Give me a magnet. Got a magnet. Got a magnet. We're out.
They're going to start saying we're Federation before they do anything. We're Federation.
Don't try to lock us up somewhere, you pre-warp. You know, you're the Luddites now.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I like Owosekun. I think that'll be an interesting... I just like when they introduce characters with a different point of view. And her family being Luddites gives her a different point of view. And so I'm hoping that they will explore her more in the future.
Yeah. I love that, Pike's parents were so split or whatever, like where they're teaching science and faith. Like that's really cool to me. Like, 'cause he's like, it was a confusing household or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the diving a little deeper into Pike, even if I do consider it an alternate reality.
Yeah, totally. All right, that's about all I wanted to touch on. Any you want to get to quotes?
Sure. I think my favorite is, if you're telling me this ship can skip across the universe on mushrooms, I'm going to have to go on faith.
Yep, I had that one. Super good.
Absolutely. You brought this one up. The faith they cling to is a lie, and he says, can you prove that?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's really good. I have a lot of really just silly ones. A lot of things really made me laugh this episode. I really liked when she interrupts the computer. She's talking about her using the laser, and it says, that will result in, until he says, boom. And then there's a long pause, and the thing goes, confirmed.
Yeah, that was funny.
It was good.
It was actually it was really touching when Saru was like telling Tilly, before we care for others, we must care for ourselves. You're important.
Yes, I have that line too. And it's a great line. It's a very true line. And it's just that sort of truth that if you don't care for yourself, you can't help others. You can't pull someone up if you don't have a firm footing. And like, that's a cool thing for Star Trek to build into a storyline. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I really liked, where the hell is Burnham? I need her here to yes and me.
Yeah, I liked that.
That's super good. I don't know that it makes sense from a Tilly perspective, but I liked it a lot. Because I don't think she meant by that was she needs her there to bounce ideas off of, but like calling it yes anding me was really, really funny to me.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
As a comedy fan, I love that. My last one was... It's two, but it's the same situation. I loved when Tilly said that she's trying to convince them all to do that the donut maneuver. And it's the first time she says it. She says, "You'd be doing a donut in a starship." That's a good line. It's funny that they're doing a donut in a starship, but what I really loved was the lady's reaction is so funny. She's like convinced by it and says, "That's true." It's like
Detmer, that's her name.
Detmer, okay. Yeah, I the way she said "that's true" was really funny.
Yeah.
And then a little later she says, "Executing donut maneuver, sir."
Yeah.
That's no dumber than slingshot maneuver.
Why is it always got to be dumb with you, man?
That's what I'm saying. I'm defending it.
Just enjoy it, man. Enjoy it.
I'm defending it.
Doesn't sound like it.
I said it's no dumber than slingshot maneuver. Slingshot maneuver was fun. I feel like that's the kind of thing I'm saying that people might say, "Oh, that's dumb, a donut in a starship." Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's the same kind of thing they would call it in the original series when they called it a slingshot maneuver. Not calling it dumb. I mean, I am calling it dumb, but it's no dumber. It's dumb in a fun way. And I'm totally down.
All these negative terms.
Oh, whatever. I love this episode.
Oh, here's the thing I really liked. They kind of mirrored Lorca, except, okay, last year, Lorca says context is for kings. This episode, Pike says context can alter our perspective.
Yeah. Interesting.
I like that difference.
Yeah, for sure. So he's talking about sort of the use of context as a tool, whereas Lorca is talking about the exclusivity of context. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Yeah, love this show. Love it, love it, love it. I as I said, first time I watched the first season, I didn't really like it. On a rewatch, it won me over. A lot of the stuff that I didn't like, I just kind of expected, and I guess I forgave a little better. And now the second season is just really hitting on all cylinders for me. I like it.
Yeah. All right. So there's a little bit of trivia.
Yeah. Throw it out.
Jacob's distress beacon was the same exact sound effect they used as the Romulan coded transmission signal in the episode Balance of Terror from the original series.
Huh. Weird.
I just think it's a neat little Easter egg.
Yeah, for sure.
The only other thing I've got is this is all from Memory Alpha, the trivia. This is the fourth Star Trek episode dealing with the descendants of humans who have been removed from Earth by external forces and have no knowledge of recent human history and or the Federation. The first was the original series, The Paradise Syndrome. The second was Voyager, the 37s, and the third was Enterprise North Star. Only in this episode in the Paradise Syndrome were the original humans removed on errands of mercy rather than subjugation. Yeah, I'm enjoying the show. There's something I think I'd be okay with it if Jonathan Frakes just was the showrunner on Star Trek.
Yeah, me too. I really would be. I don't know. I wonder. I fear he'd just try to bring Riker into everything. I think maybe direct it, because it is the thing. Showrunners is a writing skill. To me, showrunners are generally they're the head writer on the show. Directors are more of a weekly guy who gets swapped out sort of thing. And I have a feeling he's a great director. He is a great director. I've always liked what he does, but I don't know how I'd feel about him like deciding the fate of the show, which is what showrunners and writers do.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, I can see your point.
Yeah, it could be. I just don't. Has he ever written Star Trek at all?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, curious. If he has, it's very possible he's written great things and he'd be great at that too. But
I don't think he has.
I think he's just his skill set is directing, as far as I know. So yeah, man. All right, guys. Well, I think that's about it for us, right? We got anything else we want to talk about?
No, I'm good, man.
All right, guys. Well, talk to you soon. Peace.
Live long and prosper.
To reach out to us, hit us up at StarTrekUcast.com, at Star Trek Ucast on Twitter, Star Trek Universe Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for us there, or send us a message at StarTrekUcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv. And if you want to hear more from Matthew Carroll, that's me, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, or go listen to my music at MatthewCarrollmusic.com or anywhere you get music.